All right, I'd like to call the January 28th, 2025 Somersworth School Board meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Maggie Larson.
Yes.
Carrie Clark.
Here.
Sarah O'Brien Hart. Crystal D. St. Croix.
Here.
Marsha Brown.
Here.
Bridget Jamison.
Here.
Carly Prescott.
All right. Please join School Board Representative Nina Souza and I in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Any comments by visitors this evening? If so, we'd be happy to hear you. Just come up to the podium. Yep, state your name and where you live, ward, or state, and we'd be happy to hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Richard Gagnon. I'm in Ward 4, and I guess I'm basically here out of curiosity. It's been my understanding that Ward 4 does not have a school board representative. Is that still the case, or has somebody filled that seat?
Nope, no one's. Ward 2 and Ward 4 are open. As I don't know if there's an update at city. The city clerk usually gets the applicants.
I see. Okay. Well, as I said, basically I'm here out of curiosity. Since the election, I've been wanting to get more civically involved. I don't consider myself really a politician type. I feel more like an activist type, but I always hear, well, the school board is a good place to start. And since there is a vacancy and nobody that I know is running for it, I might be interested in that position. So basically, I was just going to sit through the meeting, see what goes on, and
Yeah, wonderful. Happy to have you here, Richard.
and get
yeah.
educated.
Welcome. Yeah, state
Which ward are you in?
4.
4?
Yep,
Excellent.
thank you. Any other comments by visitors? I don't think there's any. Any initial comments by board members this evening? Something to discuss before we start our meeting? That would be, no.
Oh,
Yes.
can I get give a shout out to one of our high school athletes has made it to states, so we're keeping our fingers crossed that no one does a better time this Saturday and bumps him off. So
Nice.
anyway, we have a state track person.
Nice. Wonderful. Who's that?
Do you want to say who the student is, or?
It is Noah is his
Wendell?
nickname. Orlando Waddle.
Waddle. Yes.
I hesitate because I butcher his last name, but he qualified an excellent time with the 55 hurdles. And right now he is 16th in the state.
Wow.
And they take the top 16, but we have one more qualifying. So anyway, shout out to Noah, and his family is very supportive of him. So
While you're speaking about sports, really, and before I forget, there was a small track team, there was a small winter spirit team, which I went to the cheer clinic this weekend, and I've seen time and time again in Somersworth that people that put their time and volunteer, and our coach and also staff member, Lizzie, right? Yep, took 60 plus students from kindergarten through, I think, 6th grade, middle school, for a cheer clinic for like 4 hours, and she had cheer, high school students there, and I was just so impressed. Growing those numbers is something that we need to do in Somersworth. We have smaller teams, and for someone to put their like energy, heart, and soul, the students in Lizzie, I just was really impressed and wanted to say that out loud before I forget at the end. So. All right, anyone else? Any other board members? Nope. All right, moving on to our consent calendar. We only have our Somersworth meeting minutes from January 14th. Do we have the non-public in there? Okay, good. All right, what's the wish of the board to adopt the consent calendar as presented?
motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, moving to reports. 4.1, our student representative report. Nina Souza, welcome. Thank you. This is wonderful.
So today I only have reports from the high school. So it's hard to believe, but today was the first day of semester 2 at SHS. All students transferred to new classes and new teachers. Semester 1 grades will be posted by early next week. You may have noticed the new displayed sign in the front of our school. This will be used to display announcements and recognize some of our students and staff. You may see some familiar faces on that sign too. We are very excited for the upcoming SHS Drama Club production of Mean Girls. There will be several performances the week of February 14th through the 16th. Last year's production of Little Shop of Horror was incredible, and we are really looking forward to the show this year. Tickets can be purchased at the door, and showtimes are followed. February 14th at 7 p.m., February 15th at 2 p.m. and at 7 p.m., February 16th at 5 p.m. Winter is a busy season for athletes with our girls and boys basketball team, hockey team, winter track, and unified basketball all playing games. Our unified athletics in particular have done a great job this season. Our National Honor Society is planning to hold a blood drive on Wednesday, February 19th in the gymnasium at SHS. Stop by the SHS main office or visit the American Red Cross website for more information. Also, tomorrow, NHS students will be working in the soup kitchen of the Berwick Unity Methodist Church. This is a great volunteer opportunity. The Somersworth Festival Association is putting together the annual Winter Fest Pancake Breakfast, which will be hosted on Saturday, February 8th from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the high school cafeteria. This is a great event which brings together students from all of our schools to share a meal and play some games. Finally, in February, all SHS students will be working with their advisory teachers to select classes for next year. Course selection sheets will be sent home, and we encourage families to review the course offering in the program of studies, which can be found on the website.
Wonderful, thank you. And just a reminder for any student school board reps, anything we speak about or any questions that you have, please feel free. We'll have a special education presentation today, and then February, all of our presentations will be on our budget. So if any of everyone's welcome, but any student school board reps, we have 4 of them. If you would like to ask questions in public or ask me to, relay something from the student school, board, the body, let us know. Thank you so much. All right. Moving to our superintendent's report, 4.2. Superintendent Shea.
Thank you. Just a few brief items. Update on Power School again. As many folks are aware, there was a data breach to our student information system in December. We were notified of it on January 7th. We got a message out as quickly as possible to all of our current students and families to let them know about it and what we knew from Power School. And we followed that up several days later with additional information, which that basically all the data fields had been breached, and we had been assured by Power School that none of it had been published or shared and had been destroyed. But they also committed to providing us additional information just so we could be extra safe on it. That came in a little slower, and we'll make sure what isn't already available or posted on our website will be soon. And I just want to say, with the diligent work of a handful of staff members, we are continuing to get the word out even to inactive students and past staff members, which has required some work to track them down, just to make sure everybody's been reached. A question's been raised quite a bit about, does this mean we're leaving Power School? That's not at all a consideration at this point. Student information systems, those kinds of decisions are pretty significant, and we'll cross that bridge later. Number 2, the board was right to remind us, and we're also in the process now, too, with the new federal administration and executive orders that have been issued in the last week, making sure that we're have our building principals, and in the central office, everybody's fully aware of immigration and deportation and what difference between an ICE warrant article and a court-ordered judicial warrant, not warrant article. So we're reviewing those matters now. We just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with where we are, and we've reviewed what we've got in our data systems as well, so that we're both legal and fulfilling our responsibility to our kids and our residents of Somersworth. Number 3, a lot of questions about this today, and I think we'll probably see this under the current federal administration regularly, where it takes a few days to unwind some things that happen and come out. But the questions about the federal grant freeze, we've heard from the governor's office, we've heard from the Commissioner of Education, and have received quite a few advisories on that. And the latest I heard, there might have been a federal injunction against it. So at least that holds it up temporarily. Much of what we count on had been, there was a sense was protected through this, but not necessarily all of it. But we'll keep you updated on that. And I think it won't be unusual that it takes a few days to kind of process some of these things. Wonderful article. I say that not having read it yet, but I heard it was wonderful, about the high school cell phone policy. A lot of teacher voices, a lot of student voices, and apparently mine too. But the sense is it's pretty nice to see that kind of level of engagement. That it's not a Chris Tebow, Mike Bluen thing, but critical parts of it. But teachers and students involved in this. A little bit of joking about the headline, embracing the cell phone ban might have been strong, but that was wonderful to see. But it's a work in progress, and we continue down that path, and nice to see the favorable light there. Lastly, the middle school applied for the New Hampshire Excellence in Education Award for middle schools in the fall, and just want to make folks aware that they were invited to the second round, which will happen next week. So we'll hear more there and keep you posted on that. And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome, City Councilor Parity Catanzaro. Oh, we do. Sorry.
I'll just pass right over it. It's fine.
I don't know why I did that. I was.
Well, usually I follow like fanfare, like
Yeah, you
students
follow
singing
student-
and things
Yes,
like that. So you
This
probably
is
missed
Administrator
that.
report. Tell us all the good things. Yep.
Okay, in your packet is the latest update. We have been able to fill some of our paraprofessional openings since the last update. We still do currently have 4.5 positions open. So I have encumbered these positions through the end of the year. Every update, I decrease the amount of days left in the school year and adjust the encumbrances as necessary. I wanted to note we have seen an uptick in our legal fees due to various hearings and board consultation with legal. So the budgeted amount is $20,000. We've already spent, a little over $19,000 through December. So I'm expecting more invoices to come in. So just that's an area where we're going to be seeing an overage. I'm also in the process of going through all of our open purchase orders for all the buildings to see if there's any areas that we can release or that we need to add to, and I'll adjust those in the next update. In terms of revenue, we've received additional payments for preschool and indirect cost. We also received our payment from the state for special education aid. This is an area where we typically are conservatively budgeting because we're not sure each year what we get. However, this year we did receive an additional $194,000, which is significant. So we've been looking at this as we prepare next year's budget to adjust so that way we don't have this increase in unanticipated revenue each year, and also to minimize the, obviously the decreases that we need to make on the expense side. It'll help to offset our budget for next year. So we're going to be increasing that area. In terms of the 25-26 budget, the city managers provided us with a tax cap estimate. We provided that to you in an email. So the tax cap increase for next year is $903,744. We're in the process of creating the budget. We've met a couple of times as a budget committee, and we're looking at the draft. The full board will meet on Saturday, February 1st, this coming Saturday, at 8:30 to get a full view of the budget as a whole. And then we also have a joint meeting scheduled with the City Council for February 3rd to have further conversations with the city. And then also, just to add, another attachment came to your board packet regarding the first student contract extension. So we received, our contract is up through June 30th this year. So the Budget Committee decided a few months ago, and then instead of going out to a full RFP, we would just extend with first student for an additional 3 years. So they provided us with the increases. So next year, we're going to see an 8.25% increase, and then year 2 and 3 will be a 5% increase. So the board needs to vote to extend the contract. You don't need to do it tonight. We can wait and put it on the agenda for the next time, or if you feel like approving it tonight, you can, but it does not have to be done tonight. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions? Yep, Board Member Brown.
I just have a couple of questions. Thank you. Under revenues, you have, since the last update, we have received additional payments from preschool tuition and indirect costs. Is that just they were different from budget, or are they just different?
No, we just continue to get payments each month for preschool, that parents pay monthly. And so each month we're going to see more revenue coming in. It's not additional revenue, it's just revenue we're receiving. And then the direct cost is based on our federal grants monthly report. So we bill for indirect cost every single month. So every month you're going to see that revenue coming in.
So, but is it something that's higher than what was budgeted?
No, it's already, well, we won't know because, we won't know until the end of the year what we receive.
Okay, all right. And then you mentioned the transportation contract. Is that something that that was in our packet? I didn't see it in
You
the
received a memo separate. I think John had sent a separate email with the attachment with a memo from me regarding the percentage increase. You don't have the physical contract itself. It's just extending the prices for the next 3 years.
Okay, because I just wanted to know, were you familiar with what's in the contract or the renewal?
The contract won't get drawn up until after the extension is approved, and then they'll give us a full contract to approve.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking is because, is there any accountability for leaving like the winter track team stranded for over an hour waiting for a bus that was scheduled, but someone just forgot to show up? And I just gosh, there's got to be.
I can double check on that, but anytime there's a transportation issue, some people should reach out to me, and then I can reach out to First Student and deal with the issue.
Yeah, First Student is aware of this problem. They had it on their calendar, and for some reason they forgot it.
Okay.
But just is there any, I don't know, clawback for half the time that that we were, or half the payment or something?
Yeah, I can take a look at that.
Had no idea, if they're the monopoly, then that's okay. That's what we have. But if there's any way to incentivize them to double check to make sure when they make a commitment that they actually follow through.
Do you like to see the current contract for student? Can we share that?
Sure, I can.
To see that, and
I'm taking Katie up on her offer to look for.
I can certainly look for it. Yes,
I'm here with work.
yeah. Well, we can have that be shared.
Okay,
And
all right.
the memo as well. I think that's in our emails, but I think we'll put that all together. Is it online, the contract for?
No, but I can put it. You have a transportation section in your budget binder, actually, with the prices and stuff. So I can just add the contract in there for Saturday.
Yeah,
But I don't mind looking and answering your question as well.
Marsha, was this during the strike or the potential strike? This was after the strike. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it may just, I don't know how frequently these happen, but it was just over an hour. Wasn't an hour and 15 minutes, but it was substantial. I'm like, there's got to be some mechanism, standard operating procedure, checklist to prevent this, so both parties, aren't, one isn't caught, oops, and the other one angry. We needed to be there.
Sure, I'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Board Member Jameson.
Just for the sake of asking it, are there other significant options in transportation in the area?
There are not. The last time we went out to bid, First Student was the only bid we received.
Thank you.
And just so we can make sure this is all publicly on the table, this also happened to volleyball too. So, it's nice to see that contract, where that contract happens, what's within that contract. That's a great point to bring up, for sure. Not that we can potentially do anything, but so we can see if we can change something that also happened to our volleyball team this past year.
Noted.
Thank you.
Certainly notify me if that happens again, and I'll take care of it.
There is an athletics ripple effect, as Steve Hodson went through this a week ago, where one team is late and buses, so that changes our schedule, games end differently, our buses run differently, and it becomes a nightmare pretty quickly. I don't know about either scenario, but our athletic director does his best in that regard, but sometimes it's less than perfect.
Okay. For the additional special ed coming in, now, did they attach any reasoning to that? Is there I'm just trying to, it's such a ballpark figure, but such a significant one receiving, we can't apply that to our current year.
No, that's what we budget. They don't tell us what to budget, so it's not that we received more from them. We actually received less than we are entitled to. It's just more than we budgeted for, so it's our responsibility to adjust our budget on what we think we might get.
But
that makes sense.
Did something like some equation kind of work out that they're like, oh, here's more in the middle of the year?
No, it's not in the middle of the year. It's based on last year's expenses that we had for special ed, and we get the revenue in the following year.
A lot of sense. And is that just for Somersworth students? So Is that for
Yes.
any other, okay.
No, it's just,
Right, it doesn't, still doesn't cover everyone. But that's just for our Somersworth students, not like our others, anyone else. All right, anyone else? Now, city council.
I'm up.
You.
Yeah, just a couple updates from City Council from our last meeting. We, as was mentioned, we will be having a joint school board and City Council budgeting workshop session at 6 p.m. on the 3rd, this coming Monday, February 3rd. So that'll just be for us to sort of get all on the same page, understand what's happening with the upcoming tax cap and etc. As was mentioned also, we do have several openings, including on school board, but on a number of other land use and other volunteer boards. So please, if folks are interested in getting involved, check out the Somersworth.com or SomersworthNH.gov, I guess we are now, website, and there's a full list of openings. Another really cool thing that happened at our last council meeting was the mayor declared January 22nd, was that last week? This week? The weeks are so long now. Somersworth High School Volleyball Day, and we got to applaud the girls volleyball team for their perfect year. That was very cool. And that's it. Those are all my updates.
See you Monday. All right, standing committees. 5.1A, our Budget and Revenue Committee has met. We just met earlier this evening, and I'm going to go over the schedule very quickly. We met last week to see our revenues and expenditures and get an understanding of the tax cap number. Today we got the our reductions to be able to meet that tax cap number. And then this Saturday, the 1st, here in City Hall chambers at 8:30 to about noon, no longer than that, will be our board workshop that is open to the public. It won't be as formalized as a meeting like this, but it will all be here to go over our binders for the budget. Then February 11th and 18th are board meetings that will heavily focus on the school budget. So it's a fast turnaround. This is like a project that, you basically have a couple of weeks to kind of review and assess, and then we'll vote on it on the 18th. Budget and Revenue Committee members, I'm not going into detail just since we just had our meeting before this meeting. Anything else that I'm missing? And in that later in the board meeting, I will speak to a special ed funding and advocacy work that would really help in terms of budget and especially revenue. All right. Building, grounds, transportation, and safety. I don't think you've met. You're meeting Thursday the 30th, 5:30, 4:30 at the high school, at Somersworth High School. Okay, thank you. Ed Programs and Community Outreach Committee? We met before the meeting. March, okay. Personnel and Negotiations Committee?
So we haven't met since our last meeting, and I think that we're going to hold off on meeting until after the budget season is over.
So potentially
Yeah, March, yeah.
Okay. ISM 30, Arts and Culture, ISM 30, anything from the council side? Counselor? No, nothing, okay. Policy Committee, Board Member Brown.
Yes, we had a meeting, and I can't say enough about the group that meets. Board Member Jameson is with us and on the committee, and a bunch of the administration are on the policy committee, and we get a lot of work done. So we met tonight at 5:15 to about 6:30 and discussed policy KEC, which is reconsideration of instructional materials, and we brought this out of committee, and it'll be coming for first reading at our next school board meeting. But that reconstruction of instructional materials was to make revisions so that there is a process in case someone wants to dispute materials, that we have a process for the that includes library materials. And so that was a nice discussion to make sure that we do have a process. The other policy that we discussed was policy JLCJ, which is concussions and head injuries. And Kat took the lead on this and has already vetted these changes by Steve Hodgson, our athletic director. And so that will also be coming for first reading at our next school board meeting. We tabled consideration of IJL, which is library materials and selection and adoption, just because we needed more time to discuss that. And at our next meeting, which is February, do you have it on our agenda already? February 18th. We will also be revisiting JICD, which is in the discipline section of our policies, and hopefully by then we will have out of the New Hampshire School Boards Association some guidance on, it was Tennessee versus McGill something. It was out of a Kentucky Court of Appeals that basically overturned Title IX revisions that came out of Department Ed in 2024. And so we're waiting on guidance on that because we focused our efforts on changing ACAC at the very beginning of the year and have spent a lot of time on it, Kat in particular. Now to have that thing gutted back to 2020, we're just waiting for guidance from the State School Boards Association. So it was a productive meeting, and I love the people that come populate that committee. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Anything from concussions that we need to order, or I'm just trying to think of budget in policies, if anything's in any policy that we're required to have. Okay, extra, okay, nothing. All right, just a thought. All right, our Special Education Ad Hoc Committee, Board Member Jameson, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And I don't want to, scoop you, Leander, so feel free to correct anything I say after. Special education costs are rising. We're not the only district experiencing that. There are long wait times for supports outside. The district is looking at how to expand programming to reduce some of the costs. There's also factors that we can't control, like court place students, right? Those can raise costs, and people on the outside outside of schools aren't necessarily aware of the financial impact, and that kind of happens in a silo. And then really the thing that I just keep preaching is that we have state and federal laws to follow. It's not necessarily somebody's personal philosophical practice, and we have to follow those laws, and there are costs associated with those. And as I think the letter that you're going to read about special education aid goes over, there is not appropriate funding at the state or federal level for those costs. So that is kind of where we are. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, moving to our presentation this evening. I'd like to introduce.
Yeah, I want to thank Caitlin Carrington we did a little bit of juggling, and the CTC presentation that was initially scheduled for tonight will be in May. Very timely that we're focused on special education, given the budget piece of this is significant. Leander is new to our district. Leander Corman's our Director of Student Services, new to our district as of July 1, with really a twofold overarching charge. Number one is making sure that our special education students get the services that they need. And secondarily, not first, but secondarily, also being very conscientious of budget and in the environment that we're in. That is a complicated one during budget season. So Leander is going to give basically everybody an overview, A to Z of what we are, and then I think it probably makes sense, questions and answers, just as everybody sees fit. But thank you, Leander. And I think we've got a projector up here, right? Yep. Thank you, Leander.
Thank you.
Can everyone, let's see, test. It looks like it's on. No, it is. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, so thank you. As John noted, I am just going to do a brief update on kind of where we are with student services. I did a presentation earlier at the very beginning of the season, just, to our board, just to talk about kind of where we were starting with special education. So I won't be going into a lot of numbers, but more just doing an update about kind of where we are. So a lot of the first half of this year has been a time really about learning about the district, our profile, understanding the players that we have at the schools, staff. As Katie noted, we're still short staff, right, with paras. We started, I think, 17 paras short when we started off the school year, now being 4. So we're getting there. We're filling positions. We've had to contract for some positions. That always makes it difficult. We'll talk about that a little more. So we're often in a spot of, needing to constantly kind of assess those needs. So taking a chance to look at where our strengths are right now in the district and then where our needs are. So another thing that I've been taking a look at is understanding compliance within the district when we talk about our reporting to the state with where we are in terms of, evaluations. We have timelines, whether we complete things on time, transition for high school age students, whether our transition plans are compliant. So just really looking at some of those reports, understanding those things as they come in, seeing maybe, where, even within that, where are our strengths and where do we need to do some work. Looking at also policies, practices, and procedures within the district, because as we know, we have our federal and our state rules and our regulations, but then we also have a lot of policies and procedures and ways that we own, that we do our things. We have our Somersworth way, we have our, so, just trying to also understand where we are as a district with all those things. Gaining insight to help consider programming needs is a really important thing for us to be looking at Somersworth right now. We'll talk more about some of our out-of-district programs, students that we have placed out-of-district, but we don't have programs specifically right now besides at the high school. So again, I'll talk about that a little more, but that's been another big focus to start thinking about programming. And then just understanding our needs around the staffing, professional development, and level of support that might be needed throughout the district. So when I think about the understanding what we need to be changing within the district, I think we have kind of our big vision pieces, but we also need to think of high priority versus what I call Leander's chuck it bucket. So I quickly realized, as I kept a task list of all these things that were popping up, that I started putting on my regular checklist that I work on, and quickly realized that there would be way too many things that would never be able to be accomplished this year. So I actually, behind my window, anyone who comes into my office will know, I have what I call Leander's chuck it bucket. And I have these little cards, and I just constantly, as something comes up, I write it down and I throw it in the chuck it bucket, because I said that is not, we can't tackle that right now and right here. And eventually, I think it's something that would be really nice to pour out onto my table with the coordinators and be able to, take a look as we start to think of ways to prioritize within the district. However, there are things that we can do now, right? We have to think of our small changes that we can make now to best utilize our staff's strengths and resources, things that we already have in place. And so that's been something else that, as the year has gone on, kind of going into the January timeframe, We started to just make some internal changes with some of the things that I've been working on, building coordinators, and we've had to do a little revamping in that because, again, we just have to be able to start looking at what are the priorities right now within the district. And picking up on some of the key missing pieces that could have a big impact within the district is really important too. And I just think that's where some of the uncovering of things and having opportunities to just collaborate with staff and find out where those priorities are, and just learning through, through some of the experiences that we're having so that we can start to make some of those changes. So we're looking at getting program approval right now with the New Hampshire DOE. So I've had a meeting with the state and a building coordinator and BCBA. We're looking initially at Idlehurst and Maplewood. So I met again with the elementary coordinator yesterday, and the next step is that we're gonna schedule a meeting with the building-based principals, and then hopefully start the application packets to get our first program approvals for our elementary level programming. So we are just at this time looking to do one classroom per elementary school, which for anyone who may work with programs, you'll know that that can be there's just things involved with making sure that we have appropriate staffing, resources, certification, class size. So that's a priority for this year to get hopefully those 2 programs approved before the end of the year. We're also looking at this for an additional program at the high school. So our middle high school coordinator has been working with the high school teacher. They've been going out visiting programs, being able to see some other programs that are being run for transition age, the students that are post-grad students, post-high school, post-18, for students who may or may not, right? Like students that might be attending with us until they're 21 and need those additional supports and services. 22, sorry. Yep, 21. It changed like 2 years ago to 22, which I'll talk about. I have that in there. So sorry, yes, through 22 now. So that would be another priority area that we're also looking at for this year to get that program approved as well. So, and then eventually, as we talk about some of those bigger picture pieces, what would be really nice is if we had something that went a model, the K-12, that we could see all the way through. But we do have to kind of take one step at a time and get programs approved. Once we put in for our initial program approval, they'll also come out, they'll do site visits, and then we'll get a conditional approval, and then we'll get another approval. That would be for a longer length of time. So here's the high school and the transition that I was just talking about. Already mentioned that we've been looking at some other programs and models related to transition and building programming to support the unique needs of our students who qualify until the age of 22. Okay. So how does in-district programming have an impact on our district? Well, as Bridget said earlier, right, it's the law, and it's also best practice, though, to have our students in the least restrictive environment. There's significant financial cost savings when we have students in our districts where our funds can be utilized internally. And of course, this is when it's appropriate for the student. We have to look at each student individually, and we have to be aware and understand if we can't meet a student's needs. But we are obligated to have students in our district, and again, we want them in our district with their peers in the community when they can be. So there are probably many students that could be potentially successful in a less restrictive environment back in our community if we had the supports and services in place. For example, substantially separate small group classrooms, special ed classrooms, which again, at this point, we just don't have that current model. Which is why we need to look at that. Okay. So our current out-of-district, we have approximately 21 students placed or awaiting placement out-of-district at this time. So proactive strategies to build our internal programming will also allow us to keep students in district. And then a natural transition to, we do have some students that as they're aging out when they're 22, some of those numbers are going to come down. And if on the other side, we can also keep students in the district when we know that we're working towards building that programming, because we kind of have to be able to merge from both ends at some point. Because if we continue to have the cost that we're sending students out of district, as you know, there can be significant cost and transportation cost related to that. So then it's also hard to build the programming and spend that funding on our own internal staff if we're trying to spend on both sides. Some critical issues impacting special education. The impact for the funding until age 22 has caused complications for some districts. Not only is that because students, that extra year for students, a lot of the students that are staying until that 22 are students that have most significant challenges, and that's why they're eligible to continue to get those services. So if you have a residential placement or something, that can be a cost again for an additional year. Outside partners such as DCYF, judges, that don't have the same understanding about the impacts of their daily decisions have big impacts on us. So we have something called bid meetings that we have with DCYF if students are court placed. So also even a court placed student who may end up in another public school, that school may not charge the district, but they can charge the district. And for our services, including transportation and any other cost, and some of those can even cost similar to an out-of-district placement. We have cases like that as well. So there's definitely costs that we don't have control over, where other people are making those decisions. So it's important for us to have a voice in that. And when I go to court, I have opportunities sometimes to be able to talk about that, but we have to use opportunities to educate. Mental health, social emotional, is another big piece for students that aren't identified, but currently need additional support. So those are for students that, again, might not be receiving special education, but definitely when we think of kind of like the multi-tiered systems of support, there's need there. So how can we partner with our community and help people be better informed? I think we need to assume positive tensions and recognize what others can bring to the table. And I think we can appreciate it, but also trying to hope that people can stay in their professional lanes and collaborate. We need to have a voice and advocate, but understand sometimes we're not going to end up on the same page, and that's okay as long as we're working in the spirit of what's best for students. I think that's it. Oh, any questions?
Let me get my chair up here. Board Member Brown, go ahead.
I will start off with just one question. When you mentioned out-of-district placement and that there were some that were awaiting placement.
Some that were what?
Some that were awaiting placement.
Yep.
And I just didn't know what numbers we're talking about, because all that pops into my mind is that Boston Globe article about this girl that's been waiting for like 3 years to be placed out. And I was just like, what's our situation?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's
If you
a
could
great
explain.
question. So right now we do have a student awaiting placement at this time. So I'm feeling hopeful. But for example, we may have a student who has had 7 referral packets out to schools and may or may not get into the school for various reasons. There's a wait list. Some schools have wait lists. The student may not just be the best match. There may only be 1 slot, but there's 2 students applying. So there are times that we can have students that don't have a placement. Last year, even though I wasn't in this district, I had 2 students that were without a placement for almost an entire school year. It can be a difficult position to be in, and you have to think of, alt ways to in between. But yeah, there's different factors. The other piece is due to our location, we don't always have programs that are maybe going to fit the profile. So the placement that I'm looking for a student now, I'm looking close, but I've had to expand pretty far. And then that you also run into a transportation where you might have a student much like on a bus ride that is longer than you'd like to be. So our location has some to do with it. Wait list have some things to do with it.
Okay, thank you. Board member questions? I had one, Leander, about it's great the internal programming and our needs. And I want to assume correctly, but starting at our earliest grade levels, are you seeing a greater need there? Because is that why kind of the focus on the in-school?
So the reason the focus that we were starting with the elementary is that there is some support already in a skills, what they're referring to as a skills room, that they're doing some additional support with students, but that we wanted to look at having more formalized as a program with the appropriately certified staff with the program. So to kind of build off of some of the work that's already been put into place, and there's some positive things happening within that. So that's a good spot to start now.
Motion, already motion there
Yeah.
and stuff. All right, great. All right, thank you so much. All right, everyone, thank you. Yeah. Please stick around. We do have more special ed on the agenda here. But moving to 7, our policy adoption. For our second reading, we have 2 policies. Do I have a motion to read by title only, please? Read by title.
Motion. Oh, go ahead.
I make a motion to read these 2 policies by title only.
I second.
All right, board, all in favor? Aye. All right, Board Member Brown, please take it away, each one for approval.
Yes, our first policy for second reading is at page 10 of our packet. It's DAF, and the title is Administration of Federal Grant Funds.
I proposed it today, okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve this policy as presented?
Motion to approve policy DAF, Administration of Federal Grants as presented.
Second.
Right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
DAF is presented on today, okay, hopefully it remains, yep.
The next,
Policy B, the unfortunate DIE audits. Do I have a motion to approve our audit, but per law policy?
well, I need to read it right first.
Yes, please.
Okay. This policy is at page 36 of our packet. Audits policy title, or I guess code is DIE for audits. Thank you.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Okay, second.
I'll make a second.
Any discussion? No, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, those 2 approved. Thank you. We'll have
Thank you.
more coming at the next one. Our new business this evening is our proposed board letter or advocacy on state special education funding. Before I start, I would like to give my wholehearted thanks to our new board member, Board Member Prescott. Thank you for coming to the board, and thank you for your work on this. It's great timing to come to the board with your work on advocacy for school funding, and especially in the special education route. Since we never really rarely speak the full policy, I will like to read this for the record and get feedback from you all, from the public. I will be in Concord all on Thursday to advocate for special ed funding for our schools. All right. No, because it's not for approval yet, so I just like made it yesterday. So I will send to you tonight and get feedback, but I wanted to publicly say it first for anyone else to have feedback. So it's, I haven't submitted it, it's just my draft. Okay. Here's a draft. members of the New Hampshire legislature. We write to you today on behalf of the Somersworth School Board regarding the critical issue of special education funding in New Hampshire. Our district, like many others across the state, is struggling under the immense financial burden of providing federally mandated special education services while receiving minimal state support. We'll get numbers maybe updated for the past year, but in 2022-23 academic year, the Somersworth School District spent $8.4 million on special education services, representing 28.28% of our total operating budget. This significant portion of our budget is largely funded through local property taxes. As the state and federal governments combine only 17.47% of special education costs statewide, a percentage that has decreased in recent years. The current funding model is unsustainable and unequitable. While the state contributes a base grant of $3,786 per student plus an additional $2,037 for students with IEPs, this amount only covers 10.47% of the actual additional cost per special education student, which averages $29,556 statewide. This leaves our local property taxpayers to shoulder an overwhelming 82.53% of special education costs. What's more, we are seeing an increasing number of our youngest students entering our schools with more complex special educational needs, requiring more intensive and costly interventions starting at the earlier age due to lack of funding for social supports and outside mental health services at the state level. The volatility of special education expenses makes financial planning extremely challenging for districts like ours. As documented in recent research, many New Hampshire school districts have seen their special education expenditures fluctuate by millions of dollars in a single academic year. While catastrophic aid provides some relief for our highest cost cases, it represents only 3.7% of total special education funding and is only reimbursed after we have already covered those expensive services. We strongly urge you to take immediate action to, number one, significantly increase the state's contribution to special education funding to relieve the burden on local property taxpayers. Two, reform the catastrophic aid system to provide more timely support for high-cost services. Three, create a more equitable funding formula that acknowledges the unpredictable nature of special education needs. Our students with disabilities have a federally protected right to public education, and they deserve to be supported by their state government rather than being seen as a financial burden on their local communities. The current system of downshifting over $755 million in special education to local property taxpayers is creating deep inequities across our state. We invite you to visit our schools and witness firsthand the exceptional work our educators are doing to support our students with disabilities, as well as the financial strain this places on our community. Our students deserve better than a system that leaves their education largely dependent on local property values. Respectfully submitted, I put my name, Maggie Larson, Somersworth School Board Chair. Yes. Anything? I welcome feedback on this. I will be there all Thursday. This is the last bastion. We have significant reductions this year, like most years. And if we had more coverage for special education, even by percentages more, it would make all the difference. We are required to do this. Our educators, case managers, pairs, everyone in the building is doing the best they can with the least amount of financial support possible from the state. It is time. Yes. Yep.
I'm wondering if you could circulate that to the city council and the mayor. I know many of us would be happy to sign on to that letter as well.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to just read the draft publicly before I disseminate it. I just worked on it. Carly's kind of the expert in the field. I just, used her research. Thank you, because it would have taken a long time for me to get all the figures. I think we can update some. I think it's more now. So you have the updated numbers. Thank you so much. So yes, I think it's kind of the wish of the board right now to do it. If you tell me not to send this, I will not go forward. But
so for future, I would just like to have it sent. Like, we have other things sent to us before we send it out to the public, just for future so we can read it over as well. It's a little thing.
Yeah, I just
I
did
know.
it yesterday.
I understand.
Yeah,
But
yesterday it was kind of like the last minute, and I wanted to be able to have this be public this way, and then have it be public for everyone. And I'll send it around to everyone tonight. If you want me to go forward with it, if you don't, then let me know. But it's the first time we're kind of doing this as a collective, and I'd like to disseminate it widely.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would just say it's very well written, and I think that your point about being required to cover these federally, right? Our kids have access, should have access to public education, and they do deserve to be seen as a member of the community and not. What was your wording? It was perfect. A burden. A burden. Thank you, because they are not.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Seeing no. Yep.
question, because a question was posed by City Council as well. Are you going to send it off to people to sign as well? Not for
Yeah, I'll
potentially-
send it.
but-
I'll send it to you unless there's no major revisions. Let me know. I mean, I'll have this done. I'll send this tonight. I'll disseminate it tonight to all of us here, and to
then we can look
City
it over.
Council as well. Or you can on our behalf, Counselor, yeah, if you don't mind. And then I will put your name. Just respond to me that your name would like to be put on this, and then feel free. This is a public document. We're representing Somersworth, but I think this is about time for us to go in, and I'll just dedicate my time to submit this and then be there in person to have testimony. Right? All right. Okay. You're good with it too? Okay. All right. All right. No old unfinished business. We have future meeting dates all laid out. Budget and revenue is, yep.
On the
Oh.
future meetings, the Buildings, Grounds, Transportation, and Safety Committee, it says January 30th at 5:30. That's an error. It's 4:30 to 5:30.
4:30 to 5:30.
I just wanted to
at
make sure
the-
that
yeah,
was put
at
out there.
Somersworth High School. Okay.
Yes.
We'll update that. Okay. All right. And our next meeting is in February 11th and 18th. We have 2 meetings in Feb, including our budget presentation. All right. Agenda item 11, any comments by visitors this evening? All right, seeing none. Any comments by board members? Final comments by board members this evening? Oh, yes.
Quickly, I was just gonna thank the superintendent for acknowledging some of the timely political stuff that's happening and responding to it as we can as a district. So thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question on Thursday. Is there a specific bill that you're going to speak to, or is there anything that we can encourage folks at home to send in their thoughts about as well, to just in support of special education funding? Or is
It's
it a
all
general
education funding for that day, and there are 2 bills to raise the amount of.
Should we
I-
an opportunity to, you can go online and
Yeah.
say you were in favor of some
I-
of our votes?
Yep, I will. Yep. Oh, put on your microphone.
Do you happen to know the bill numbers?
HB 603
3, yeah, and
HB
17.
I don't know the other one, but if you go on
Or
the
2.
New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project's Instagram, there's an advocacy tool that you can use to email your senator and your House reps.
As a tri-city with Dover and Rochester also, but we're smaller, but I think this is it. Like, this is kind of the time to do this. And I know there's a lot of funding structures, but if we had a healthier reimbursement for special education there are 2 bills, but there's a funding structure, and they would like more in person. But that's okay. I can represent, and if there are toolkits, we'll disseminate that. I'll do that in the same email for everyone.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. All right, moving forward, we have a non-public per RSA 91A32, and what's the other one for? Under C, okay, we'll do retirements as A and C. Yeah. A and C. Can I have a roll call, please? Yes.
I need a motion first.
Oh, a motion to, yeah, oh, yeah, sorry, no one whispered it. Motion to go in for A and C.
I motion to go in for A and C.
Okay, 91A3.
Second.
Okay, a roll call, please. Thanks,
Maggie
Katie.
Larson.
Yes.
Carrie Clark. Sarah O'Brien Hart, sorry. Crystal D. St. Croix. Marcia Brown.
Yes.
Bridget Jamison.
Yes.
Carly Prescott.
Wait, what just happened?
91A32, where's the A and the C?
A blind heart, Clark. I did, yeah. Yeah, I just wrote. I just got.